Hi, I'm Tracy Hellwinkle with Trees Knoxville. I'm project manager, and today we are going to talk to Mac Post and Kara Strouse and Adam. I'm sorry, Adam, I don't know your last name yet. Who worked with the Dogwood Coalition to make the Arboretum at Dogwood Elementary. It's a big deal because this is our first Arboretum in Knox County schools for elementary schools. There is also an Arboretum at, there's two other schools, Fulton and it'll come to me in a minute. So I want to thank you for your patience as we're still learning and doing technology on Zoom. If you have any questions during the presentation, if you can write them in the chat section. Also, if you don't know where chat is, if you just kind of hover your cursor down at the bottom, a little bar pops up and you'll see that little chat feature. And if you click on that, it'll bring up the chat feature. And you can contact me privately, directly, or any member that's on the chat if you want to do that, or you can post your question to everyone. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and read this. Mac Post has dedicated his life to ecological sciences. He received his BA in mathematics and MS in botany from the University of Wisconsin. Mac earned his PhD at the University of Tennessee in ecology and did his postdoc at the Oak Ridge Laboratory. He continued to work at the Oak Ridge Laboratory as a research scientist from 1980 to 2012. Mac has been an active member of the Sierra Club since 1975 and currently the Tennessee chapter chair. He volunteers at IAMS Nature Center as a naturalist guide for K-5 school groups and started the Knoxville Inspiring Connections Outdoors chapter in 2014. He's been a teacher at UT and currently instructs at the Smoky Mountain Field School and the Great Smoky Mountain Institute at Tremont, specializing in winter tree identification. When he isn't interacting with people, guiding them how to see, experience, and understand the natural world in a new way, Mac is an avid hiker, backpacker, canoeist, whitewater kayaker, and gardener. Kara Strouse has worked with the South Knoxville community for the past decade. She currently serves as the Dogwood Elementary Community School Coordinator. Before this, she directed the Vestal Boys and Girls Club, where she gathered community resources to open an outdoor learning center, still in use today. She is excited to continue growing and developing the Mac Post Arboretum with her dolphin community. The dolphin is the mascot for Dogwood Elementary. So with that said, I'm not going to talk too much on the Arboretum. Now, if anyone has any questions, again, you can put those in the chat section. Also, if you need to contact me directly before or after this meeting, I'm at treesknoxville@gmail.com, and I'll put that in the chat section if you ever need to reach us. And our website is treesknoxville.org. So with that said, I'm going to mute myself because it's noisy where I'm at, and I'm going to unmute you, Mac, and I'm just going to let you go. All right. All right, Mac, I think you're ready to go. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, you guys just do your thing, and I might have to interrupt a couple times the questions if that's okay. Right.
So hi, I'm Kara Strouse. I'm the community school site coordinator here at Dogwood. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the nature trail itself and just the community school initiative, which focuses to leverage partners and resources to better serve the specific needs of the school. So because it's so site specific, the community school model looks different at every site that it serves. But at Dogwood, lucky for me, it looks sometimes like a nature trail and an arboretum. So this trail that we will walk down was created roughly 20 years ago in partnership with some AmeriCorps members and Monty Stanley, who has an adjacent land to this lot. We're actually on school grounds still, even though we're in the wilderness. A few years after the trail was formed, I think lack of use, it just got forgotten about and became overgrown. And it wasn't until 2015 where Mac Post led a group of students through the Sierra Club, and they've rediscovered an old platform and an old nature trail. So shortly after that, the former site coordinator at Dogwood, Adam Fritz, joined some partners together to form the Dogwood Outdoor Coalition to better support and serve outdoor learning on this nature trail. They further developed it by creating several volunteer days, mostly with AmeriCorps Vista and other AmeriCorps members. They have a Make a Difference Day every year. And so they've been here at Dogwood making a difference on our nature trail for the past 5 years. So they've cleared a ton of invasive species. They've helped erect outdoor classroom benches. What else, Matt? They've put up some fencing.
Actually built parts of the trail.
Yeah, they've forged parts of the trail. So their partnership has really been essential to this trail.
Actually, there's only about 100 feet left of the original trail, and all the rest has been rerouted to be on school property and more hiker-friendly for 10-year-olds.
That's awesome. But we also received a $10,000 Tegna grant, which helped us provide signage and trees, wildflowers, part of the bridges and overlook. What else?
I think you guys are going to need to speak up a little bit or get closer to the mic, if that's okay.
So we've had numerous volunteer days that have helped create this space. And I'm going to turn it over to Mac to talk a little bit about the Arboretum specifically.
One of the early ideas for the Dogwood Outdoor Coalition was to have an Arboretum out here, and Adam had arranged at one time for someone from TWRA come out, and he walked around and found about 10 or 15 species. Thought we'd need a lot more if we're going to do that. And shortly after that, he was contacted by a Boy Scout troop with a Boy Scout looking for an Eagle Scout project. If you're familiar with Eagle Scout projects, this is something that is required for them before they get the rank of Eagle. And it has to be something that they develop and promote and get volunteers for and do that. This Eagle Scout project planted an additional 15 trees to bring the total up to 30 species. Over the next year and a half or so, 10 of those trees died. And so there was an effort to try and revive this Arboretum trail, and we scouted it out, and I discovered probably another additional 10 or 12 species that the Boy Scouts had overlooked. And then last spring, Trees Knoxville came and planted 15 additional species, most of which survived. And those that didn't, just a couple that didn't, have been replanted. So now we're up to 51 species of trees. This is 22 were planted in the last 2 years. 4 of them were probably planted by Monty Stanley back when the AmeriCorps, mentioned that 20 years ago, had built this trail. And so these were just recently discovered too. Actually, he told us they were here and we found them. So he's been on and off a patron of this trail over the years. And he's been a big supporter. He gives us free plants every year. Free trees and shrubs and wildflowers that we plant at the entrance. So that's been a real boon to this.
Mac, I'm going to need you to speak up a little bit. It's hard to hear. I'm going to probably need you to speak up or get closer to the mic. Okay, thanks.
So we now have we have now 51 species of trees on this Arboretum trail. 22 of which were planted in the last 2 years, 4 by Stanley about 5 to 15 years ago. And there are 24 of the trees are naturally established trees that have been here, and they're part of the woodlot that's here. Now let me get something here. So with this establishment, with the improvements to the trails, we'll see the improvements to the deck and the bridge over the temporary stream that flows through here. The Dogwood Outdoor Coalition went and applied for Arboretum status with the Morton Arboretum ArbNet program, which is a community of arboretums. And let me just read some of the objectives of the Arboretum. To preserve and care for trees, trail trees, and outdoor classrooms at Dogwood Elementary School. To add and care for new species of trees and native wildflowers. To educate visitors, and visitors, this has a public entrance to it. So the public comes here and can enjoy this trail from dawn to dusk. There's also a separate school entrance to the trail so that the students don't have to leave school property to get here. So this is an educational place for visitors as well as students. And overall, the purpose is to celebrate nature and natural learning through events in the Arboretum, the Lindbergh Forest community, which surrounds this neighborhood, and the Dogwood Elementary School. So just to tell you that some things, we know that this is already working because people come here all the time. When I'm out here working, I often run across people that are coming down the trail with their kids. Last Sunday, there was a family with their kids, and they had a little piece of cardboard with holes poked in it. And when they saw something pretty thing the girl would pick up, she was probably, she was going to go into kindergarten this year. That's right. They'd put it in this thing and they could take it home and remember the times that they were out on this trail. And people just come out here and admire it. There's one man I've met out here a couple of times. One time he was out here, and we'll go see this tree. There's a big leaf magnolia that Monty Stanley planted here, because big leaf magnolias are native to the Cumberland Plateau, not to the Smokies. And he was standing there with someone he brought out here to show him that tree. And a couple of weeks later, I talked with him. And it turns out he's a landscaper, and he was showing this tree to a potential customer that what he thought would be a great tree for their yard. But the other thing he mentioned to me was he really enjoyed the Arboretum trail aspect of it, because there are a lot of trees out here that people don't ask to put in their yards. And he was learning a lot, even though he was a professional landscaper, about trees that were around here. He says no one ever asked for pawpaws to be planted in their yards, for example. We have a pawpaw patch here. So that's one benefit of this. It serves not just the community, but the school, but also the community as well.
Should we open it for questions? Does anyone have questions at this point about just the creation of the nature trail or the Arboretum?
If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat section and I'm happy to read them. At this point, I do have everyone muted because if you don't know where the chat section is, I think you can now unmute yourself if you have any questions.
I'm gonna share something with you guys. It's called the Dogwood Elementary Schoolyard Map. This was created. This was started by Tremont, an intern at Tremont.
And while you're getting that together, I'm gonna, there is a question, where is the main entrance? If there is one, and if you look at the thing now, you will see all the places where you can, if you Google Dogwood or the MacPost Dogwood Arboretum, it takes you to the Morton site, and then there's a link there as well that brings you to this Google map. So go ahead, Mac.
So I'll let Kara explain this map.
Sure. So I'm going to zoom in. This is Gerson Drive, and this is we are positioned in the outdoor classroom right off Gerson Drive. That's where we were sitting initially. At the trailhead, there is, oh, it's very overgrown. There is a archway that says, that reads the Dogwood Community Trail.
Touch just there.
Mac's gonna try to bring it up. I don't think it's doing.
No,
Yeah.
I can't. We could walk back and show you, but there's an archway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work either.
No, it's okay. And then the school entrance is just right here. And there's a musical instrument in another archway that indicates you are at the Dogwood Community Trail. We are getting more signage as we develop the trail system.
See if we expand this out, maybe we can see that. This one.
There it is. There you go.
That's what the entrance looks like.
There's
the community entrance off of Gerson Drive, right behind the elementary school.
And you can park along the shoulder of Gerson Drive. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, when school's not in session, you can park at Dogwood and use either entrance, whatever you're comfortable with. There's actually a parking lot that makes, right here, this back parking lot, makes that back trail pretty accessible. Were there any other questions?
Here, it says, hi, Mac. Are there any ecology walks on the calendar? So David's asking, hey, David. David wants to know if you're going to have any tree. Well, you know, David, as soon as we can get back all together, because of COVID, Trees Knoxville is not doing their normal tree walks, but Mac was supposed to do one for us. And hopefully we'll be able to do that again soon and go on a tree walk, on a trail walk, an actual physical walk with Mac at some point. I would love to do that.
We're going to walk on the trail today and do a little tree identification for you, and just show you some of the trees that are here, and talk about the trail a little bit. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to walk down the trail here a little bit. Okay, have a look at this persimmon sign. So here's one of the trail signs here. These are new trail signs. We just started putting them in this morning, so we don't have them all up yet. But if you notice on this side of the thing, there's a little QR code. So if you're out here with your cell phone and you put the camera on it and you have a QR code reader, it'll pull up that community map that we just showed you. And each one of those bubbles has additional information about each of the trees. So you can get more information about that.
While you guys are walking, while you guys are doing that, it's a perfect time for me to kind of read some of these questions out. And so
Okay.
Bob says that he has an American chestnut that he'd like to donate. So he's got that if y'all want it.
Okay, is it a American Chestnut Foundation tree?
Did you hear that, Bob? Is it an American Chestnut Foundation tree? We'll just give him a few minutes. I'll let you know.
Okay. So I know some of you are probably pretty expert at identifying things, but I have a couple of unusual trees here that I wanted to show you. But before we get into that, I wanted to make sure that you understood what a compound leaf was. Now this is just off of a multiflora rose, but it has compound leaves. This is where it's attached to the stem, and then this is sort of like a leaf stem called the rachis, and then it has leaflets. So all of this is one leaf, and these are leaflets on that leaf. This is a compound leaf. Usually what you see, most trees around here have simple leaves. They just have one leaf blade attached to the stem. But these have multiple leaf blades called a compound leaf. Now notice on this one, the leaflets come off in pairs and one at the tip. And this is typical of what a compound leaf looks like. But we have one tree here that does something a little bit different. Now, this one's called a a yellowwood, Kentucky yellowwood. And you can see just by the difference in color of the stem, this is the stem, and this is where the leaf begins on this one. So this is one leaf. In the fall, this falls off as one piece. Remember, I said most leaves have pairs of leaflets coming off and one in the tip. This one's different in that the leaflets alternate on the rachis. So if you ever see a tree that has a compound leaf where the leaflets alternate rather than come off in pairs opposite each other, you know you're looking at yellowwood. You can find yellowwood in the Smokies. It's not that common a tree, but it's to be found. It also lines the parking lot at Imes Nature Center, so you'll see a lot of them there as well. But this one is even more different. This is one of the trees that was established here by itself. The old AmeriCorps trail used to actually come down right straight down the slope here. We did put in a switchback to make it so it wasn't quite as steep. And so this one was cut off a couple of times, but it's still growing back. The terminal bud last year was down here. So all this is growth this year. This one's called a devil's walking stick, and it's because it's got all these spines along the stem. So here's where the leaf is attached to the stem, right? And so here's one leaf. This is one leaf here. It's what's known as a double compound leaf. It has these things that come off, and then each one of those is also compound. So this is a double compound leaf. Now the size of this leaf, this is all one leaf. Okay, so double compound, lots of spines, devil's walking stick. Now, okay.
Go to the
So that's your dendrology lesson for today.
So this is Jackie's Overlook, named after Jackie Ewell, who is on this Zoom today for all of her hard work and dedication to helping organize volunteer days, leading educational nature lessons along the trail. Thanks, Jackie.
That's great. Hey, Karen.
Yes.
Oh, when you have time, I don't know if you got the funding or not. Can you talk about how you guys are also going to make it more accessible for all types of people? Is that part of that? Okay.
Yeah,
we've got it at the end.
We got that future plans.
All right. All right.
But we do want to show you, we have a photograph of the kind of before and after from this viewpoint, just to kind of give you an idea of how much work has truly transpired on this trail.
Take a look at what this looks like now. And I'll set this here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this photo taken on the first AmeriCorps workday in 2016. Of what this looked like. Although it was in January, there weren't leaves on the trees, so it looks a little different. But you can see it was mostly covered over with honeysuckle, shrub honeysuckle, amur honeysuckle. There's also lots of other invasives here. You can still see them here today, but it was pretty impenetrable. And the AmeriCorps crews that came in working on it gradually built the trails, widened it by pulling invasive. There were several church groups came out and did big invasive pulls, mostly in this area that we're looking at here now. So most of these shrubs in this area are gone now. Yeah, and you can see in the center of this picture, there's a bridge in there. You can barely see that bridge. That bridge was pretty small. It didn't have a handrail. And so Bob,
Yeah,
Bob
Trails, Trees, and Gardens.
Trails, Trees, and Garden got a grant and rebuilt the bridge and extended it and made it larger. So it's now even wide enough for mountain bikes to cross. And mountain bikes come through here fairly regularly because it's now connected to a new trail system in Stanley Lippincott Park, which is adjacent to this, just to the north.
And that's a nice hike
Back.
too. That's a real nice walk over to the Lippincott. We have a question. Justin would like to know, are there multiple varieties of dogwood trees on this trail?
No, we just have Cornus Florida, flowering dogwood. The other dogwood, I mean, there's several other dogwoods in Tennessee, but we don't have any of them here.
That's a good question.
So you can sort of see some of the new placards down below the bridge here, below the observation deck. The observation deck was actually rebuilt by Adam's stepfather, along with some volunteers. And so this is actually a new overlook, but it is in the same place. So the photograph that you saw in 2016 was taken from the old overlook, and now standing on the new overlook, it's the same thing.
Trying to compare the two Buckeyes.
Yeah, so we'll go down the trail a little bit further, and we'll look at these trees down here.
When we did our tree plant there, that's where we took the photograph, was on those steps you're walking down right now.
Yeah, so that was the scene where the photograph was, and there's the observation deck. Now, one thing that Tracy and Trees Knoxville was interested in is helping people learn about trees. And so at this spot here, we have two different species of buckeye. This red buckeye, which I think Monty Stanley snuck in about two or 3 years ago. All of a sudden it was just here. And over here we have a Trees Knoxville planted tree, yellow buckeye. So, and then there's another place on the trail where there's a bald cypress planted next to a dawn redwood. So you can compare those two as well. So.
Yeah, that'll be great as they get bigger. We do have a question. Is Arboretum status, and Alana, if I'm not saying that properly, I'm sorry. I don't know that we will know the answer to this question, but is Arboretum status only given if there's access to the public? I don't think that's the case.
I think it is. Well, it depends on the agency that's doing it, the certification. But Morton requires it to be open to the public, and the Tennessee Forestry Council or whatever that does also certifies arboretums requires them to be open to the public as well.
Thank you.
I'll just break in a second. There is an organization, I don't remember which one it is, that does allow arboretum certification on private property, but it costs a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's probably also a Morton Arboretum category. So here we're looking at this magnificent big leaf magnolia. Just to show you the scale, Kara's going to show you how big the leaves are. Yeah. But the question I have for people in here is, this is your quiz. Which tree on this trail has the biggest leaf?
I guess y'all can put your answers in the chat, or if you want to, is that, someone wants to know I'm sorry, is that the same as the umbrella leaf magnolia?
No, it's not. This is Magnolia macrophylla. Macrophylla is big leaf, basically, in Latin. It's different than the umbrella magnolia. And that landscaper that I was talking to actually pointed out to me that this tree flowered this year. I don't know if you can see up in that corner, there's a seed pod up there that came from this, that this tree produced when it flowered. So there's actually 2 or 3 seed pods up there.
As far as you know, Mac, had the tree not flowered before?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to my knowledge. So,
What do you think made the difference?
well, I think it just got old enough. You can see from the stem, it's probably about 4 centimeters in diameter. And so that means it's probably 10 to 15 years old. So it just got old enough to flower. Now here's another tree is native to here, but you don't see very often. This is Castanea pumila, otherwise known as chinkapin. So this is in the same genus as chestnut, and it produces a nut that looks much like a chestnut. This hasn't, as far as I know, hasn't flowered yet. But Allegheny chinkapin. So we have a couple of unusual trees along here. How are we doing on time, Tracy?
It's 2:38.
2:38. So we got plenty of time here.
Yeah, you got some time.
This is as you can see from the sign, this is a musclewood or hornbeam. One of the common names for it is musclewood, and if you look at the bark here, it's sort of, I don't know if you can see this well, but the wood itself is sort of striated like muscles on someone's forearm. And so that gives you another clue. I wanted to show you this area up here. Shortly after the first work day for the trail, that summer, that fall, Adam was still the school coordinator, and he came to the Dogwood Outdoor Coalition and said, hey, the first grade here never gets to go on a field trip. Is it possible to do a field trip out on the nature trail with the entire first grade, which is like 130 students? And so the coalition got together and said, yeah, let's do it. And these little benches were made into little circles. And so that each classroom went around to different stations on the trail, and they had presenters or programs at each one of these things, or interactive things that they could do. They made pine cone bird feeders. They turned over tree cookies to look for salamanders and caterpillars and worms and whatever. And
Walker sister reenactment.
yeah, the Walker sisters reenacted what it was like to live in the Smokies before electricity, and how they made their clothes and
Made applesauce.
planted. They made applesauce, and each kid get to taste the applesauce that they turned through the strainer and so ever since then, it's been an annual event every fall. There's a first grade field trip out here. The other thing is there's an after school club called the Urban Wilderness Club, and they do all kinds of things. But one time, Adam's stepfather came in and had them make bat houses, and we came out here and installed these bat houses out on the trail. So if you look at them, they're personalized. The students have their names on them that they constructed these things and put them out here on the trail. There's a couple of these at various locations around the trail.
Now, Mac, you said something interesting, and I know the answer to the question, but a lot of people might not know what a tree cookie is. Could you please explain that? Because I don't think you'll be able to walk up to that part of the trail.
Yeah, if you go to the schoolyard map, there's a place. Well, no, it's okay, Adam. It's just it's a cross section of a tree that's about about 8 to 15 inches in diameter and about 3 or 4 inches thick. So it's just like a slab of wood, and these are arranged in one place along the thing. So.
And can you tell what happens with the tree
They're about
cookies?
this big around, about that thick, and there's about the place where there's about 40 of them on the ground, and the kids, anybody can come out and explore them. That's one of the things we want to do in the future, is put a sign up there and says, hey, look for critters underneath these things. This morning when I was out here putting up a sign, I found a ringneck snake.
Nice.
Going through the underbrush. The other thing that's amazing that has happened ecologically since the trail was established and various groups have come in here and done invasive shrub removal is the number of different species of wildflowers that have been coming up has been really enormous. There's a huge seed bank here, and we've seen now trilliums coming up. I bet you your cranefly orchid is blooming here today. We have cranefly orchids that come up. This spring it was just covered with buttercups and forget the name, wild anise, and now we're having white avens blooming and ferns, all kinds of ferns coming up. We have about 3 or 4 species of ferns, and so one of the things we want to do is get an ecological survey and have kids come out here and sort of find things and put them on iNaturalist, so we can have this enhancement to the schoolyard map of a link to the iNaturalist findings on this property. So it's a real resource that has a lot of potential for learning more about nature. A lot of the after-school clubs bring their kids out here just for various things. One, just to do mindfulness exercises, do
art. They do rubbing.
Do art. I think on the piece on the ground here, there's something that was left over from. Yeah, this was
Left over from a lesson.
Yeah, this was left over from last year, but I guess it was some kind of scavenger hunt that one of the after-school providers had out here, or even the classes. So that's been a real feature of this. Now, there's been some effort by the Outdoor Coalition to get teachers to come out and use the trail more, and that's slowly happening. There's difficulties. There's been in-service days out here with teachers, and as well as one-on-one trainings for them to learn the kinds of exercises that they could, just to think about what they could do out here on the trail. And it doesn't have to just be nature. It can be art, as Kara said, or it can be mathematics.
Yeah, a large part of it is normalizing the trail and being out here for teachers that aren't used to being outside or that don't have much experience in nature. The job is hard. It can be really overwhelming once you face a tough transition of getting kids from what a classroom looks like inside and coming outside to a completely different classroom that seems to have less structure. So we bring the teachers out here. We try to once a year they rotate through pods just like the kindergarten field trips do, and learn lessons that you can do on the fly that align with the standards that they're teaching for their grade. So it really does increase the use of the trail. And it's never been more important than it is now in COVID. Being outside is much safer when you think about transmission, and the kids aren't required to wear masks in the outdoor classrooms. And so our principal, in fact, has suggested that every teacher try to teach at least one class outside. So Lana Shelton Lowe, who is our principal, is a huge proponent of these spaces. And without her support, I don't think it, it wouldn't be utilized by the classrooms. And so we've been working really hard to get the spaces whipped into shape. We also have 2 interior courtyards that we use as classrooms. We have a no-mow zone on the side of the school in addition to this space. So we're really trying to make nature as accessible as we possibly can for our kiddos. So you want to talk about future things? We've got about 15 more minutes.
Okay, let's just go up here and where it intersects with the trails and family.
As you guys are, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
We're just gonna go up here to where the trail intersects Stanley Lippincott Park.
I went ahead and posted a link, everyone, in the chat section from our website. If you're more interested in learning and going visiting different arboreta in Knoxville, I have on our website, they're all listed there. And the other school I was trying to think about was Gresham Middle School. So we have one at Fulton High. We don't, but Fulton High School has an arboretum. Gresham Middle School and Dogwood Elementary is the first elementary school in Knox County to establish an arboretum. And everyone has their different standards. So the Morton Arboretum is like something like 25 trees, but then the Tennessee Environmental Council, the Tennessee group, and I'll get you people the link. They have a different amount of trees. I think that's 33 different species. So, and it tells you how to do this. So if you're interested in doing something like this at your school, you don't necessarily have to have a wilderness area like it has at Dogwood. You can do this on your campus. It's just a matter of getting the species. You have to have a different variety of tree species to do this. So, and Trees Knoxville can help with that. We can get people out there to look at the different species. And, we can come and do tree plantings, especially if you need to bring more variety to your school. All right, Mac.
Just as a thing, if Adam would point over here, this is what this trail looked like before all this work was on it. It was just covered up with burning bush and bush honeysuckle and things like that. So the areas that we see on this have been largely cleared of these large ones. We, of course, have all this periwinkle and winter creeper and English ivy, and that's here. But that's a long program to try and get that to look more native. And let's go up here to the trail. So here's where the dogwood trail, which we call the Woodland Dolphin Trail, because as Casey mentioned, dolphin is the mascot for Dogwood Elementary School. So this is the Woodland Dolphin Trail that we've been on, and it loops around in this direction over here. This trail that goes this way was just built about a year ago by AMBC to connect to Stanley Lippincott Park. So the school property ends shortly after this, and Stanley Lippincott Park starts after that. And as Tracy said, the forest in Stanley Lippincott is really quite nice. It's got lots of large trees in it. Again, it's got invasive plants coming in because it was disturbed at one time. But if you want to see some of Knoxville's largest trees, you'll see them in Stanley Lippincott Park. And so I think I just want to talk about what the future plans are for this. There'll be some trail improvements, some continual removal of invasive species, and so far we have a corridor around the trail where most of the shrub suckles have been removed. We'll try and create a corridor until we eventually get all of the school property pretty much under control. This takes quite a bit of volunteer work. Schools come in, colleges on alternative spring breaks stop here. And so this is all coordinated through the Dogwood Outdoor Coalition, and the work days are scheduled. There is a plan for an adaptive trail. You've heard about these because Legacy Parks is working with a organization to put an adaptive trail in the north slope of Sharps Ridge Memorial Park. And so that construction has begun, and they were looking at that one section that comes down from the school down to the observation deck that was put in there by Appalachian Mountain Bike as a mountain bike access to this area as an adaptive trail. Now, an adaptive trail means that specialized mountain bike type devices can navigate on that trail. And so that's sort of something that's in the works. It has to be coordinated with Knox County to meet ADA standards and all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that's on the future plans.
In process.
Yeah. And the other things, documenting all the flora and fauna that occur here and having that as a resource for learning at the school and for the public is part of the plan as well. The Dogwood Outdoor Coalition has gotten a new partner on it. It's someone from IMES Nature Center. So IMES will be more involved.
Janina Gowan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this is sort of all part of South Knoxville. Now, the school entrance is near, what's the name of the community center that's?
Cecil Webb.
Yeah.
Cecil Webb Community Center. So that's public property, and it goes over to Moody Avenue. And then it's just right there at the end of James White Parkway, if you look at the map. So the school entrance is about a half a mile from where the Baker Creek entrance will be built on the end of James White Parkway. So eventually the idea is that this is going to be hooked up to the South Knoxville urban wilderness. And so this is close enough to be considered as being able to be connected to the South Knoxville urban wilderness. Just a quarter mile over that way is Fort Dickerson Park. We often take after school kids, the Sierra Club's ICO will take kids hiking there because we don't have to get a bus. The permit the teachers have to get to take the kids on a field trip requires all that we have to do is have a crossing guard at Chapman Highway, and we can go hiking at Fort Dickerson. So eventually this will connect to the proposed battlefield loop that Legacy Parks has in mind as well, because Fort Stanley is just on the other side of Stanley Lippincott Park, and Fort Dickerson is right over there about a quarter mile away as well. So this is a really nice area. This is an area that's been preserved from not being developed in because it's a low wet area. And so like much of the parks in Knoxville, greenways are along floodplains. This one floods a little bit every now and then, but so future plans are continue education, have more public access, link up to all these other places, and be an educational node in that network. Anything else you want? Okay.
People have questions for us?
Oh, we can hear that. We can hear that airplane. Oh, really? If anyone has any questions, that's great.
Close to Island Home.
Close to Island Home, exactly. If anyone has any questions,
I want to see
you can
how
put
people-
that over. I'm sorry, did somebody say something? No?
Yeah, I wanted to know how people did on my question. Which tree has the biggest leaf here?
I mean,
I showed two possible candidates. One is the Devil's Walking Stick,
oh,
and the other
that's
is the big leaf magnolia. So if you count the circumference of the thing, the devil's walking stick is the biggest tree, biggest leaf. Most people would pick the big leaf magnolia, but as far as leaf area on one leaf, big leaf magnolia might beat it because the leaflets on the devil's walking stick are pretty small. So here's the trail signs for the Woodland Dolphin Trail. Okay, we're ready for questions.
Yeah. Oh, where to go? This is a great question. Where to go to volunteer for improvements?
Oh, yeah. So if you are interested in joining the Dogwood Outdoor Coalition or volunteering at one of our work days, you can reach out to me. I can put my email address in the notes, but it's kstrouse, STROUSE @knoxed.org.
And if anyone needs that information, please email me at treesknoxville@gmail.com as well, and I can get you anyone's contact information as well.
Yeah, we can filter it. You're now part of the Dogwood Outdoor Coalition, so.
I am. We are. I'm so excited about it too. It's just been my favorite project. Mac and Kara and Adam, who's also still there with you holding the camera. Thank you for that, Adam. It's really just been so wonderful working with you all, and I really hope that we can continue working. Of course, we will through the coalition. There's just so much to learn about how you've organized everything and how everything came together so we can make a model. I think that would be great if we can make a model for other schools to follow as well. Because I think this is probably the best thing happening right now for Knox County schools, but of course I'm biased, right? Okay, well, if there are no more questions, I think we're gonna go ahead and sign off. Kara, thank you. Mac, thank you. Adam, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's such a pleasure. All right, everyone. Well, I'm going to get this on the YouTube channel, so that'll be there. I posted that in the chat section. Again, if you have any questions or have anything else, you got lots of thank yous coming through here in the chat section. If you have any further questions, please, again, you can email me. And most of this information is online at our website. So if you go to the programming and there's a drop-down menu, and it'll have Arboretum written down there, so you can find all the Arboretum information there as well. So I'm going to thank everyone for being here today, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.